while here we go. Whatever we are saying, whatever we are asking here is going to remain amongst ourselves. Plus, we are going to send the recording only to the people who registered but actually couldn't join us live today. Otherwise, it's not going to go out into the world. So it's going to still stay private. It's not going to go to YouTube and be distributed anywhere. So whatever happens here stays amongst us, plus the people who couldn't actually be here, but they ask questions, and I'm going to ask their questions here as well. Okay, I think we are ready to kick off, and let me just see some of the questions that I've got here prepared that came through. So the first one is a rather odd one, but I can also relate to this. Why is it that I hate to listen to my own voice? When I record anything, right, and I listen back to it, and I absolutely hate it. I'm one of these people, but it was not a question coming from me. But I am one of those. Why is that?
The short answer is because the way we hear our voice in our head is completely different to the way everyone else hears it. So it's normally just because we're not used to hearing our voice. So when we listen to our voice in our own head, we're listening to it not only through air, but also through the bone, the soft and hard tissues in the head and the neck. When we listen to other people's voices, we're listening to it purely through the air. So it just sounds different. And that's why I encourage people to listen to recordings of their voice, because that's a more accurate gauge of what other people are hearing. But also, even more important than that, is to really become aware of how your voice feels. That's the most important thing, because it doesn't matter how great it sounds if it feels really uncomfortable. So is that enough answer?
Makes total sense. And
okay.
if anyone wants to jump on it, then by all means feel free to.
Yeah.
I think at this point this is not a list of these questions, but I think at this point it's maybe good to ask, how did you end up being a voice coach and being what you are now and what you do? How did you? What's your journey?
What's my journey? Wow. Okay. So I trained as a singing teacher about 12, 13 years ago. And actually the speaking side of it sort of happened probably about 5 or 6 years ago. So now I don't actually really work with singers so much anymore. I sing myself, but I pretty much primarily only work with speakers. And it was actually a lady when I was living in Australia just came to me, I think out of desperation, because I was promoting myself as a singing teacher. And she said, like, I really need help with my speaking voice. Can you help me? And I said, well, you know, I'm a singing teacher, but same instrument. I'll give it a go type thing. So that was really the start of it. And then since then, I've done a lot more training, and I've really thrown myself into the sort of the speaking side of it. But so yeah, so that side of it kind of happened accidentally in a way. But yes, the training from a singing perspective started 12, 13 years ago. But to be honest, I mean, I think anyone that is in this space, or probably in any area that you focus on, the training is never ending. I'm always reading, I'm always attending workshops, events, conferences. So it's never ending.
And how did you become a professional singer?
I've been singing since I can remember. So the singing has, I don't know, I think I just came out of the womb. But in terms of the sort of singer-songwriter thing that I've been doing recently, I only released my first single in April, so that's all relatively new. Before then, I was singing other people's songs. So I used to do Eva Cassidy tribute shows, and massive Eva Cassidy fan. So that was what I was doing in Australia, and then I was like, why am I not writing my own music? So yeah, so you'll probably hear when you listen to my music, there's definitely I did a lot of musical theatre when I was younger, so there's all these kind of influences in my voice, I think.
And in terms of the genre, what would you say? Where would you class yourself, if it's applicable in any way?
I think I kind of describe myself as a sort of acoustic, soulful pop singer. I find it really hard because there's so many influences. I love gospel, I love soul, I love R&B. So there's all a bit of that, but I'm not really a soul singer. There's a soulful element to it. So yeah, and I love strings. So if you come to my show, strings, piano, it's very sort of dramatic music.
Now, coming back to some of the technical questions,
yes,
right?
yes,
around voice, and then hopefully you guys are also warming up. So feel free to signal in the chat box if there is anything that jumps to your mind. So things about the tickly cough and the raspiness, right? What do we do about these things? So many of us who work as interpreters, teachers, we are regularly using our voice all the time. We are invited to speaking engagements. We are hosting podcast shows. So what do we do with the unwanted tickly cough in the back of our throat and the raspiness?
Okay, I'm gonna address those separately, if that's okay. So this would be where I would ask more questions. So in terms of the raspiness, first of all, I would ask, are there any other symptoms with the raspiness? So for example, is there any throat tension or any kind of tension at all that you're aware of in the vocal mechanism? Are you clearing your throat? Is there any instability in the voice? Is there pitch issues? Is the voice weak? Because if you add other symptoms to the mix, it could point to more of what we call muscle tension dysphonia, which is a voice disorder that's quite common amongst people that use their voice a lot for hours at a time. But if it's just raspiness, purely raspiness, and there's nothing else going on, you just have that kind of croaky, raspy quality to the voice. Normally, that's more to do with the pitch and the pitch sitting too low. So the lower the pitch, the raspier, the croakier the voice is. So it's actually more about slightly raising the pitch. And in my experience of the professionals that I work with, most people are speaking too low for naturally where their voice actually sits. So you fall into that kind of croaky, raspy place quite easily. And I think we all do that, including myself. When we're tired, the voice tends to kind of drop when we're, at the end of the day or first thing in the morning, the voice can maybe be a little bit croaky and raspy. So I'd say address the pitch unless there's other symptoms that are with it, which is why I'd probably need to hear the person that asked that question to ascertain if there's other stuff going on. But yeah, so yeah, does that help answer that?
I hope so. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Do you know who asked that question, just out of interest?
This was coming from a language teacher.
Oh, okay. Is she or he there?
No.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm asking the questions that came through email.
Okay. Because I would have actually, had the person been here, I would have helped them with the pitch. Because sometimes when I say pitch, people are like, okay, well, how do I do that? So, but they're not here. So.
Very interesting. Okay, then I'm here, and the next question comes from, well, me, but it was also asked from others. The unwanted tickling in the back of the throat in the most unwanted moments. That's me. So I don't know if my voice helps now to
So first of all, I mean, I'm guessing that are there any sort of illnesses or allergies or anything that you would be aware of that would be contributing to it? No. Okay. Things like acid reflux as well. I always have to ask these questions because people don't always tell me. They're like, oh yeah, I've got acid reflux, but I forgot to mention it. So just to be aware, there's often other reasons. But if it's purely a tickly cough, when do you experience? I'm just going to ask you because you're the one that's the guinea pig.
Absolutely. No, I'm happy to be.
When would you say that you generally experience that? Is there a certain time of day or a certain point after you've been speaking for a certain period of time, or is it just random?
I think it's mostly, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure if I'm aware, to be honest. Right. I think I would need to observe myself a little bit more. But probably what I would say, it happens after I speak a lot.
Right.
And I'm a bit stressed, or not stressed, but yeah, nervous.
Okay. And so my next question would be then, when you are speaking a lot, do you feel like you have to put quite a lot of effort into your voice?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be why then, because it sounds like there's some irritation going on in the vocal fold level. So if there's nothing else going on, if there's no illness, no infection, nothing else, no allergy, then if you're having to put a lot of effort into the voice, then the vocal folds are probably getting a little bit inflamed, and then they get irritated. So it's an irritation, it sounds to me. So, well, there's a couple of things. So firstly, in terms of what do you normally do in that case then? Do you cough? Drink water?
I cough and I drink the water, yes.
Okay. This is so hard, because if there's any way at all possible, don't cough if at all possible. Because actually what happens if the vocal folds are irritated, coughing just makes them more irritated, because when we cough, we're literally slamming them together at high speed. And then if they were already irritated, now they're extra irritated, and then you're going to want to keep coughing. So water is brilliant. Definitely keep doing that. But if you can, instead of coughing, really resist the urge. And I know it's really difficult. Instead, do a hard swallow. So if you can put your chin against your chest and do a really hard swallow, and it kind of helps to kind of clear any kind of mucus and any irritation. I think really it's just avoiding coughing. So swallowing, drinking water. This probably isn't going to be that much use to you in the moment, but I'm saying steaming the voice is also quite good, because it takes away that kind of tickle as well. So if it's at nighttime and you're feeling a bit tickly, steaming, because anything hydration related is brilliant for the voice.
Very interesting. I think this is the right moment to ask this. Niraj, we are respecting Anouska's wish, and please unmute yourself.
Well,
it's a really good one, actually. And I think this is the right moment to ask this. Niraj, go for it.
Yeah, so it was a really just thought of it as what I would do and whether it's recommended, as in for coughs. A natural remedy that we have in India since I've had as a kid is gargling warm water and turmeric just at the beginning of the day,
right,
and at the end of the day.
Okay, yeah, I mean, gargling is definitely good. I'm not sure from a vocal perspective about adding in any kind of spice or anything like that, but I think if you can keep it the water kind of clean and gargle, that would probably be preferable.
Maybe salt then.
Maybe salt, yeah, so something just very sort of pure and clean, because you might find otherwise it might irritate it in a whole new way. But yeah, that has been that is a very, that's a definitely well worth trying, particularly if you find that the other things don't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cheers.
No problem.
Perfect. And just to say that, Niraj, maybe you want to say in what way you are using your voice, or in what capacity you use your voice.
Okay, so sometimes it's in regular Zoom calls, which is fine. Yeah. I think Gabriella wanted to point me to more my creative side, because I go up on stage and tell jokes. So
wow,
as a comedian, so it's
multilingual one, right?
Multilingual. Oh, please. She's singing everyone's tunes today.
I know, it's brilliant.
So I don't know what the question is, other than
this is no question as such. No, I just wanted, because Anouska said that maybe it's good if she understands a bit more about the background and in why we are asking these sort of questions, or why we are saying it. That's why I thought that it would be a good point to get back to you, Niraj, just for a moment. But don't worry, I'm moving on to Friederike, who's also got an interesting comment and question. Go for it.
I've been told that it helps. I'm not sure now if it was against some kind of tingling or what the specific problem was, but that it helps to eat an apple. And I a while ago I recorded a podcast every week And we usually recorded that in the morning, which was initially a nightmare. But the apple, I felt it kind of helped. I mean, sometimes you do these things and you don't know if it's just psychological, right?
Yeah.
I remembered some exercises that Emma, who's also on the call, at some point told us about, and somebody else told me about some exercise. And I think that in combination helped. But I was anyway curious about the apple thing, if that's, have you heard of that, or is that?
You know what? I haven't ever heard that before.
Oh, right.
I'm going to be Googling that later. So do you know why that was suggested, that it might help?
I think, first of all, what you also said, that it hydrates,
Mhm.
and because it clears the mucus, I think.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So,
okay. I mean, it's already interesting that you've never heard of this. So maybe it's just a myth. I don't know.
do you know what? If it works for you, it doesn't matter whether it's in the textbooks or not. So
true.
And just out of interest, do you remember what kind of exercises that you were doing?
So I remember some that Emma suggested, I think was, rolling your head like this and your shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
And then kind of rolling down your whole back. I don't know how to describe it, and go back up. And then somebody else suggested all kinds of stuff, like you pretend you're chewing a chewing gum, both with your mouth closed and open. But that's probably more for the speaking muscles. I mean, this was kind of both sort of the voice and also the speaking stuff. So pretend you're chewing a chewing gum. What else was there? Oh, yeah. And then like you basically almost sing the different vowels from as low as you can go to as high and back down again. Okay. And you do that with all vowels. I think that's it.
Okay. No, I'm just intrigued, just interested. So thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you for all the input.
I'm going to jump on this, what Friederike just mentioned, and this is my question as well from the list, the morning voice, right? Recording a podcast in the morning, and it's just terrible. You can hear in the voice that it's still tired, that I have not yet woken up properly. So what do we know? What can we do? How can we put the life back into the voice when it's needed in the early morning hours? Or literally we just need to respect our body, and we need to schedule these things for later during the day.
So I guess my first question, so I'm like a politician, I ask questions in answer to questions. My first question would be, do you warm up your voice before you start?
Of course I don't.
Okay. Okay, so that would be what I would suggest that you do, and I can show you some warm-ups now. That's why I was interested to know what kinds of things Friederike was doing, because I think it's the single most important thing that most speakers don't do, and it always baffles me, because it's a muscle, or many muscles actually, but you wouldn't go for a big run without limbering up first. So it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be literally just getting a bit of blood flow to the voice. What Friederike was saying, which there's kind of two different ways of warming up. So we want to warm up the kind of body, but we also want to warm up the voice. So, and when I say warm up body, you don't have to do anything crazy, but rolling the shoulders, shaking the hands, moving the arms, stretching the neck. I mean, you could do this all in like a minute. Hands, we know that there's a connection between hands and the voice. So if the hands are tense, then that can often feed into the voice. So if you can really shake the hands and the arms before you start doing anything, roll the shoulders, stretch the neck. And then there's also the articulators, so the jaw, the tongue, the lips, getting them moving. And I know you just talked about chewing. That's a really good one. Also, one I really like is cleaning the teeth with the tongue, getting the tongue really stretched and moving. Again, I mean, you can do this literally while you're turning your computer on. It doesn't have to be a big thing. With the lips, I mean, saying things like, you can say, another one I like is saying wibble wobble really fast, wibble wobble, wibble wobble, wibble wobble, just getting the lips moving, you know.
Just laughing because I'm having troubles with the W anyway. Right?
Oh, okay. I can give you another one. I can give you another one. So another one you can do if you find, actually it's unfortunate because a lot of the ones I use have W's in. You can just do an oo-e, so an oo vowel to an e vowel, oo-e, 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 and you can move your lips really quickly. Yeah, but the idea with this is you want the lips to be really kind of really pouty, because these are the muscles that are generally underutilized, the ones that really allow the lips to pout, and the smile muscles are the ones that are overutilized. So we want to really get everything moving. And you'll find actually, even if you do that for like 10 seconds with the tongue, you'll feel like there's just more blood flow moving into your around your face and your body. Now with the voice itself, then there's a few ways to do it, but a really simple one is just to do a really simple, gentle hum. So and you could just, again, you could do this while you're making a cup of tea, you could do this while you're making breakfast, whatever you do in the morning in the shower. I always say to people, it's great doing this type of thing in the shower because it's steam, the voice likes steam. So yeah, so can I just ask you to try the hum?
Yes, you can. Show me a hum, and I will do the hum.
Okay, so
And I can hear that my pitch is quite low. I had a very busy day. I was speaking a lot. I can hear that my pitch is lower than usual.
That's it. Yeah. I think what's really important with this is not to track. I call it like tracking the pitch. So don't follow the body up with the pitch. So not a but think about the sound going forward. So you want to feel the vibration around your mouth and around your nose. So it's always forward versus kind of up. Yeah. If you can keep still while you do it. I know it's really hard. Everyone always wants to move when they do it. So most people will kind of go up with the pitch, but yeah, it's try and kind of keep still. You can move your hand if you want to move something. Yeah. Yeah. And it's often something, if someone is in the moment and their voice is quite fatigued, say they're in the middle of talking and they're having a small break, I would often suggest that they do some very gentle hums, as long as it's forward, as long as you want to feel a bit of a tickle around your mouth and around your nose. Yeah. I did
feel that. Okay. Yeah. Really interesting.
I can spend an hour on this, so I'll move on to another.
Yes, good point. I'm going to mute myself and then continue trying. But before that, I think this kind of relates to what we were talking about. This is coming from an interpreter who also is invited to speaking engagement. So she would speak about and teach about interpreting. So how to look after our voice before, during, and after long speaking engagement.
Okay. So everything I've literally just said, you would do. And I would suggest, if it's a really long day of speaking, that you try and put in like 30 seconds, a minute in the middle of the day, if you have a lunch break, of these very simple hums. Just remind the lips, the tongue, and the jaw to soften and to move. Maybe shake your hands and your arms, get everything, just blood flow moving. But I think also importantly, and it's a shame she's not here, that lady, is that you said she's not here? No, okay. It's a shame I can't hear her speak, because it could also be, again, I think pitch is a huge issue. Pitch is really at the foundation of how the voice sort of functions. So if the voice is too low, you're going to have to just work harder to project the voice. And so it's going to be like a domino effect. By the end of the day, the voice is just going to get more and more tired because you're having to work harder to get the voice out. So I would work with someone like that on helping them to find what we call a kind of the natural pitch for that person and bring the voice forward. Because if you can bring the voice forward, it takes the pressure off the throat.
Okay, how can you bring the voice forward again?
So many ways, but probably the simplest way is to practice this, finding this sort of vibration around the front of the instrument. So M's are really good because when we say an M, we can feel a tingle around our mouth. So I will often get clients to say words that start with an M. So start with a mum, 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 many mums make muffins, you know, I'll just make up words with M's, just to really encourage the sound forward and the voice forward, because the biggest cause of, outside of any sort of injury or illness or anything like that, is just their voices are really sitting in their throat too low, and that's why they struggle. So you can put sort of plasters on it and do your warm-ups, but then if you're spending 10 hours a day at the back of your throat talking, then you're just undoing it all anyway.
Very interesting. Okay, during the speaking engagement?
During the speaking engagement.
What can we do? So in between, you know, if we've got some breaks, like what shall we do?
Oh, I see. Well, I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I think it's really just keeping blood flow moving, but also drinking loads of water. I think that's the other thing. It's amazing how dry the voice can get if we're talking for long periods of time. So I think always have water with you and just continually be drinking water. And if you can, if you know you're going to be speaking for hours, try and up your water intake the day before, even a couple of days before. So that, because obviously when we drink water, it's not going onto the vocal folds, it's being absorbed into the body. So it doesn't directly affect them until later on. So yeah, I think particularly at the moment with heating and colds and all that sort of thing as well.
Perfect. And after speaking.
Cool down the voice. So I'm just going to show you this, which I've got, which is a looks a bit weird. It's like a cup. I mean, I bought this, but you could just get like a normal cup and put a hole in it, like a plastic cup or I know we're not really meant to use plastic these days, are we, or polystyrene, but essentially, and then it's a straw that just kind of goes in the end like that. And then you can just literally put this over your mouth. Ooh. Ooh. And it's really therapeutic for the voice, and it's just a really nice thing to actually have. So this is called a voice straw. And it's just a really nice way of sort of loading the voice, because when we talk for hours, it tends to get kind of overloaded. So we're just unpressing and unloading the voice. So this is just a really nice way of doing it.
Rather interesting.
I could spend like an hour answering that question, but
okay, very interesting. Now let's move on. I've got here some other questions, and then guys, whenever you're ready, you just signal that that you've got something to say, and then we will come to you. What would you say to people who run out of breath when speaking? I've come across speakers who, you know, are wonderful teachers, and really what they say is amazing. But here we go. But then out of breath. And so what would you say as an advice, suggestion? What can they do to, and why is it? And what can they do?
So without hearing them, I'm going to just guess why that might be the case. So for a lot of people, they're breathing too shallow and too high. So if we're breathing shallow and high, we are taking smaller sips of air, which means we kind of run out of air quicker. So we've probably heard of diaphragmatic breathing. It's really just bringing the breath lower so we can actually have better control over it. It's not actually that we need a lot of breath for speaking. It's the fact that we want to be able to control it. And so when it's coming from a sort of deeper, lower place, we have more control over the output of that breath, versus when and what we tend to do, and we all do it when we're nervous, when we're in really nervous situations, we tend to kind of tense through the shoulders, the chest, the neck, the throat, And so the breath just becomes very, very shallow. So it would really be practicing that deeper belly breath. I mean, I do a lot of yoga, and so those kind of breathing patterns you often do in yoga classes are quite good. But if not, just putting your hands on your belly, and really nice way of doing it is you can just make literally like a psh sound. And then as you make that sound, you just draw the belly in. So it's like a psh, psh, just to get that feeling of actually how much freer the voice is when the breath sits lower, because we're not jamming up the larynx as well. That's a short answer.
Great. Yes, Friederike?
I have a completely unrelated question to everything that we've spoken about so far. I recently recorded a podcast with someone who's not here today, but has also often attended these events. And listening back to it, I noticed something which I kind of already knew about the way I speak, namely that my intonation is very there's a lot of movement in my intonation, and I think sometimes that's probably good because I sound enthusiastic. It's maybe easy to listen to rather than if someone talks very monotonously. But listening back, I really felt, okay, you sound a little bit too enthusiastic. And I wondered if you have any tricks I feel most people probably have the opposing problem, but I wondered if you have any tricks to sort of, when I feel I'm getting too excited, or also in discussions when I'm really angry, I think I also sounded because I'm really like really a lot of movement, and I think it's sometimes good to be able to at least control it, so you can you have control over what you're doing.
Yeah. So do you feel like you're not aware of it happening? Your voice is just going off on its own tangent?
I mean, I do think it's systematic in that I emphasize the things I want to emphasize. So it's not completely random. So in that sense, it is controlled, but I think I would prefer to control it in a way that it's a little bit less enthusiastic, if you understand what I mean.
So I'm just wondering, do you think it's pitch, or do you think it's more intensity of the way you're pronouncing words? So by pitch, I mean the melody going up and down versus the intensity more...
Probably both.
Both, okay. Because just listening to you speak now, I mean, I don't know how you sound in the podcast, so I can only go by what's in front of me. I wonder if what you're hearing is more what I would call sort of slamming into consonants, maybe a little bit hard. There's a little bit of heaviness perhaps going into some of the words a little bit. I don't know if that resonates at all.
Yeah, I think I need to think about it and listen back to the podcast. I mean, I also, with you saying this, I also wonder if that's a bit of I mean, my native language is German, and I think German definitely is not sort of as kind of soft as English, if you will, with the sounds at least. So I'm wondering if that's a bit, but I do also feel, I do think there is something in the pitch as well.
Okay. I mean, it could be feeding into the pitch because now you've said that your native language is German. That makes a lot of sense to me based on the way you're speaking now and what you've just described. Because I'm not going to speak German, but I did study German for a while, and the consonants are quite. There's quite a kind of there's what we would call, there's quite an attack often on the consonants in German, whereas something like Spanish or Italian is much softer.
Yeah,
there isn't really the attack on the consonants, and so you can get that kind of what we call glottal attack. So it'd be like gut, and it's very sort of squeezing into and that might be what you're experiencing, and because you're kind of grabbing the consonants more, maybe your kind of pitch goes up in the process. But it might just be softening, maybe trying to be a bit more mindful about softening, but it's going to be hard because that's your native language and that's part of the way people speak.
So,
but listen back and perhaps notice, is this more of a glottal attack or is this more pitch? Because I wonder if it's former.
Interesting. Okay, thanks so much. I'll definitely try to find out. Thank you.
Another interesting thing that that came through is when the voice is too quiet. So when we have to perform, right, we have to speak, and we think that that we are asking a question. Maybe it's not necessarily a speaking engagement, but we are just asking a question, and we think we are asking it in a really articulated way and a normal tone of voice, and turns out that the other person just can't hear us. Voice is too quiet, especially in those moments when we are perhaps a bit on the nervous side. What's that about? Why is that, and what can we do?
Is the person who asked the question?
No, this is another one.
Okay. Okay. So without hearing the person speak, often when the voice is too quiet, there's not enough intentional articulation. So articulation is not just about clarity, but it's also about projection and power and amplification of the voice. So it's all interconnected. It's what we call kind of part of how we resonate the voice, how we get the voice out. So often when people are speaking quietly, if they can just be a bit more intentional with articulating, it's amazing. So if I don't really articulate now and I just talk like this, it's hard for me to get my voice out. But if I just start articulating a little bit more, suddenly there's just more power. And I haven't done anything different but articulate a little bit more intentionally. And I think it's just very natural when we're nervous, we tend to sort of kind of go inwards and pull the voice in with us as well. So I think it's trying to do the opposite as best as you can and literally allow the voice out by being a bit more mindful about your articulation.
Very interesting. And what about the, well, not the opposite, but I also come across people who speak very fast when public speaking, and then suddenly it's just super fast and impossible to follow. I don't know if it happens to me because, yeah, so again, English is not my native language, right? So I have to speak a bit slower to get my point across. I also have to think sometimes, what is it that I want to actually say, and then how do I put it, etc. But the point is that that still I can empathize with people who suddenly start to speak very fast.
So again, without hearing the person, I think often when we speed up, we lose the articulation. So it's hard to articulate clearly and speak fast. You can do it. And obviously there are professions like auctioneers, like sports commentators that talk really, really fast and are trained to do that and can get that clarity. But I would say for most people, when they speak fast, because they're nervous or for whatever reason, they tend to lose that articulation and that clarity. So I actually worked with a Russian man a few years ago, and he was forced to work with me because no one in his team could understand him. And he spoke really fast, and we worked a lot on articulation because he just gabbled. And that was part of the reason why he spoke so fast, because he was able to, because he wasn't really pronouncing anything clearly. So it's, without listening to the person, I would say that would probably be my gut reaction to that, to focus on clear articulation. And you are forced to slow down. Just try and do a tongue twister, for example, quickly.
Very interesting. Okay, I've got one more, but I think Anna wants to say.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say that actually I am one of those people who speak very fast, and I'm also Russian, so I don't think that's a national.
Interesting.
Thing.
Okay.
But also just because I unmuted myself, I also have a couple of questions, and they're both a little weird. So I think just before I lose my courage, I'm going to get my chance. So the first question is actually something that happened to me recently. Basically, I mainly work with computers. I don't really talk to people much, but I do occasionally make presentations. And I was doing a presentation recently on a topic that's quite personal to me. And my voice went really strange. I think all the way through, it sounded like I was really going to cry, although I wasn't, but it sounded like that. And after that, I paid attention that some other people, when they talk, even about just normal topics like work-related or even hobby-related. They also sound like that. So it's just something about being emotional, I think. But I was wondering if there are any known techniques for dealing with this, particularly when maybe you already started to talk and then you realize that, all right, it's actually not going right. And, you have to fix it. You don't really have much time to maybe stop for, half an hour to go away. You have to fix it on the place. Is there a way to do that?
So would you say that your pitch goes up in those moments? Is it
I would say it rather goes down, actually.
Goes down. Okay, interesting. Okay.
It's really something very new to me. I never noticed it in all my previous life after anyone else. And that's why I'm so curious about it.
And so anything else, any other words you could give me to describe what you noticed that happened to your voice? Other than
I think it's also the voice just sounds very raspy, but much more than if it even would in any normal case when you may be tired or just have the tickles in the throat. It's much more than that, and it seems to be really affected by emotions. It's something very interesting.
So, I mean, I was going to say, and it depends. I mean, I suppose in the moment it's a little bit harder. I mean, I suppose in the moment, I would just say stop and allow yourself to take some deeper breaths. But often when we're nervous and the voice starts to kind of change and go into some sort of weird place, it's often because we're really constricting the throat. And so it changes, obviously, the acoustics and the sound that's coming out of our mouth. So actually, maybe for you, if you're in this situation again, is actually perhaps trying to release the throat a little bit before you start speaking. And one way to do that, which is going to sound really weird, but you could do this, is actually to do yawn is a really good thing. You go into the toilet and do some yawns. Do also a stifled yawn, which is basically when you keep the mouth closed and then you go, and you'll feel the back of the throat really open. And sometimes just releasing the back of the throat, because I think even before we start speaking, when we know we're going into a speaking situation, we're already nervous. Everything starts to tense, everything starts to tighten. So I would, if you can, go into the toilet even 5 minutes before and just do lots of yawns, shake your hands because the voice and the hands are connected, roll your shoulders, just try and get as much movement through the body, because when we get nervous, everything tends to kind of contract and tighten by definition. I mean, I think that happens with all of us in different ways. So yeah, I think that would be my advice. Try and sort of open the throat, relax the throat before you start speaking.
Great, thank you. And the second question, that's probably even more personal, even more weird. So as I say, I don't really speak much professionally, but that means that when I get to speak, I get very nervous. I start losing my breath, speaking too fast, whatever. So the question is, do you think that doing singing lessons as a hobby is useful in learning to manage the voice? For a person who doesn't have particularly much of a voice and who is quite tone deaf, is it a dead end or is it actually a useful thing?
I think so. I mean, I think it could even be you join a choir, something where you're around other people, so you're not quite sort of in the limelight. But any way we can start to kind of use the voice, and get blood flow to the vocal folds, I think is always going to be really beneficial. And hopefully, I think it gives people so much confidence just singing in choirs, in groups. So that could be, I don't know if that's of interest to you, that type of thing, even start there and then maybe look at some private lessons. But absolutely, I think it would really, really help. And your voice will just start to sort of function better as well. And also, you were talking about the pitch dropping. I think when we're used to sort of singing a lot, the voice, not always, but often can then have a bit more melody. It's easier for us to find a bit more melody. So when the voice is dropping, if we find we're getting nervous, it's easier to get the voice back up again than if we're not used to singing and the voice just drops. It can be quite daunting, like, how do I get out of this? Because I'm not used to moving my voice around. So I think for you, it sounds like it could actually serve many benefits.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
I leave it to others. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, Yelena, what do you think? Is it a good moment?
I think it is a good moment. Thank you so much for this webinar. I'm sorry I've missed the presentation or the start of it, but actually I do like these webinars on voice. I think for a very particular reason. Maybe it's a personal thing. I don't know. But anyway, when I was at university, one of my teachers said that my voice in English sounded very low. And I think since then, and that was more than 20 years ago, I have developed some kind of personal complex. And if you heard me in Russian, that's my native language, and if you heard me in English, I'm sure my voice will sound different to you. Very, very different. So anyway, yes, that's what my teacher said, the lecturer, which really offended me. And I think if that comment has stayed with me for 20 years, I think that explains why I really try to sign up to every webinar or a workshop on voice that I see. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to answer this question. I wasn't going to ask this question, but I will ask it now. Does my voice sound too low pitched to you? That's one thing. And a few other things. When you have a tense voice, and if you're in the UK, and if you remember that Conservative Party conference Theresa May was speaking at, when her voice completely suffocated her, she couldn't speak. How do you avoid this tense kind of voice? And do you have any kind of daily routine that you do every morning or perhaps before public speaking? So is there a kind of exercise routine, correct breathing, or anything that you do and that you would recommend?
Okay, where do I start? So the first question, I think, was your pitch of your voice. Was that the first question? Okay.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, that was your first question. You know, I don't think your voice is too low, actually. I think it might sit a little bit at the back of your throat, which might give the illusion that it's a bit lower, but I don't think the pitch in itself is too low. I don't know if that makes any sense to you when I say it sort of sits more at the back of your throat. If I was to talk at the back of my throat, it would be like this. It would be like I'm pulling the sound back versus bringing it forward. You might want to see if you can practice, perhaps you missed the session at the beginning when we were talking about bringing sound forward. You might want to practice perhaps bringing the sound a little bit more forward. When you watch this back, that will make sense to you. Because I don't think the pitch is the issue. I think you just perhaps have pulled the sound back, and that might also be, and it's often the case, because you are now very overly concerned about your voice and overly worried about your voice. And what we tend to do when we're very concerned or anxious about our voice is we pull it back. I mean, we just do that. So that would be something I would suggest. Now, I can't remember your other questions. And what was your next question?
Yeah. Thank you for that. If there is a recording available, I'll be very, very grateful for that.
Yeah.
The other things I mentioned. Do you have a daily routine exercise or correct breathing exercising that you do before you start working, or every morning, or whatever? What would you recommend?
Well, I can give a really short answer to this. So I'm probably, because I'm a singer, I do a very different warm-up probably to what you would ever need to do. So mine is everything. However, and this is a shameless plug, but I've got a video on my YouTube channel of literally a warm-up for speakers, which has got everything. So I could send that to Gabriella, and then that she can send that out, because
that'd be great.
It's got warm-ups for everything. And that would be what I would recommend, picking and choosing from there. And that would be the quickest answer to that question.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm checking who else has got, if I can see any kind of signals that point in the direction that maybe they want to say something or unmute themselves. I've got 2 questions here, Niraj. Okay, I'm going first and then back to Niraj. We are mostly ladies here. And I did watch one of those videos, Anouska, where you mentioned that our monthly cycle has an influence on how we sound and what our voice is like. So I know that the answer is yes, the monthly cycle does affect our voice, but can you just recap and explain in what way? Because I found that fascinating.
Yes, and I remember when I read this and I discovered this myself, I was like, this is incredible. So they discovered that the cells on the cervix are the same as the cells on there. They were similar. I'm not a scientist, but they looked the same under a microscope, the cervix cells and the cells on the vocal folds, which was mind-blowing. They couldn't tell the difference between them. And there's a book, if anyone's interested, I can again share the book with you. French laryngologist, that this is what he's sort of studied about the female voice. And so essentially it's going to vary from woman to woman because it depends on the kinds of symptoms you experience as a woman on a month-to-month basis, and we all experience our periods very differently. Some people have, you know, really terrible PMS, some women don't really experience much. It would also depend if you're on the pill or something as well, because if you're on the pill you might not notice it as much. But essentially there's generally like a thickening of the vocal folds around the time leading up to our period. So your voice might just feel a little bit heavier, a little bit thicker. And again, but it's going to vary from woman to woman. So, but that's, I suppose, at the most basic level. So it's really interesting just to start to notice, if you are someone that tracks your cycle, just sort of notice when you're in the lead up to your period, say a week before, do you notice any changes to your voice? Does it feel thicker? Does it get more tired? Does it feel heavier? When you speak, do you feel it's just a lot more effort? And then it's really about all the things we've spoken about, warming up the voice more around that time, drinking more water, maybe in the morning, having a shower, getting lots of steam, inhaling lots of steam. So just sort of trying to loosen everything up as much as possible. But yeah, so I'm not sure if that's answered your question. It really depends on the woman, how you experience your periods as well. But I can send you the link to the book because it's a really fascinating book if anyone's interested.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Let's go back to Niraj.
Yeah, so these are two completely different questions. So the first one is from a comedy standpoint. So on occasion, I host or am like an MC for like a comedy crowd. And of course, you know, you've got to warm up the crowd, not necessarily tell jokes, but just be friendly, maybe ask them about the job. That's a typical one. And, you know, try and make a joke, have a conversation with them. So how do singers warm up their crowds, as it were? Which is the first one.
Okay.
And the second one is, in every language has their fastest speaker, so, or incomprehensible speaker. So it might be a Glaswegian accent. In French, it might be someone from Quebec, for example, or in Spanish, it might be, could be someone from Andalusia or even Dominican Republic, for example. So after trying to understand what they're saying and asking them to slow down, please, is there any way how you can improve yourself by, you know, either, I guess it could be listening to YouTube clips at 2 speed or something, I don't know. How do you understand fast speech, rapid speech, should we say?
Okay, so the first question was how do singers warm up the crowd? I mean, I can only talk for myself here. So, I mean, I suppose it is different because, you know, for me, in terms of warming up the crowd, it's a little bit different because I would pick certain songs that I think it would be more about my song choice that I would use to warm up the crowd. And then I would talk and I would introduce the band, I would introduce myself. So that's probably how I would warm up the crowd. I know a lot of singers will have a warm-up act first for that reason, just so that the audience is already super excited before you come on. So I guess it is a little bit different, because that would be, you know, you're having to sort of speak to the audience, aren't you, to kind of warm them up. So it is a little bit different. You don't have someone else to come on and do that for you.
It depends. If I'm the host and MC, I would have to warm up the crowd. If I'm the comic performing in the show, then there's always someone to warm up the crowd. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So your question was more when you're the warm-up person.
No, it's actually to find out, when you're the singer, how does the singer warm up the crowd, and see if anything I can learn from that, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I suppose, you know, I don't think about warming up. I don't think about warming up the crowd. Maybe I should. Maybe you've given me an idea. So for me, it's just very much about song choice and drawing the audience in straight away by playing a particular song, often with a catchy intro that I know that will grab them. So it's more musically, I think I would do it, and then introduce the band and talk to the audience. But yeah, I can see it's a bit different for you.
And the second question was about the speed and how to follow someone who speaks very fast, right? How can we actually discern what they are saying?
So, okay, so your question was how to follow someone that speaks fast. Was that the question?
Correct, yeah. After numerous prompts of, can you slow down?
I mean, it's going to sound really weird, but it's almost a kind of ear training in itself. And it is really difficult, because I remember going to a presentation a few years ago, and the woman just announced at the beginning, I talk fast, it's up to you to keep up with me. And and it was just gobsmacked, because she was training us. So I don't know. I mean, I almost feel like it's on the person speaking to make sure they can be understood and received. I'm not sure it should be on you to try and follow them. But I think the only thing I can think of really is to just try and immerse yourself in as many different accents and as many different voices as possible. Because in my work, I work with people with all sorts of different accents. So I've got used to discerning different vowels, because really the difference really in accent is mostly in the vowel. And so for me, it's just about exposing myself to as many different voices as possible. Now, that would probably be my answer, but it's a difficult one, because I think it's really on the other person.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Good. Let's go to Friederike, and then we are coming to Catherine.
I just wanted to quickly comment on this, because it reminded me of some really interesting research that's been done in the Netherlands, in Nijmegen, where they found out that if you hear a foreign language that you don't know, it's going to sound faster to you than it. So they have kind of ways of measuring how fast it actually is. And they found out that it sounds faster to you than it actually is if it's foreign to you. And I think the same probably applies to foreign accents that you're not very familiar with. So, I mean, this is basically just reiterating what you also said, that familiarizing yourself with the accent will help you. Although I definitely agree that the attitude of it's your job to keep up with me is maybe not the nicest. But I do think that familiarizing yourself, and definitely from experience, my partner used to live with two people who both spoke incredibly fast. And I initially couldn't follow them. And I think over time, I guess, hopefully it improves.
Yeah, I think the ear just starts to tune in more. I also, and actually, just on that point, I did read a book that actually I think Gabriella and I had talked. I can't remember the name of it right now. It was about the evolution of the speaking voice or something. I can't remember the title of the book, but they were talking in, I think it was that book, about when it's a language we're not familiar with, it all sort of sounds like one long, like sausage of sound. It's just like almost like one long word. And as you say, it just sounds really fast and we can't keep up with it. But it's just because we're not familiar with the individual words. So it just all sounds like one word. And I think that's also, again, part of that ear training and just familiarizing yourself with different accents, different languages, even if you don't actually speak them.
Let's go to Catherine.
I feel really nervous now about speaking.
No, don't be silly.
Yeah, Anouska, I just wondered if I'm speaking at the right pitch, because I don't really get what that means. And I've also often thought that I have quite a lower voice for a woman, sort of, I guess, for the average woman, if you can say that. I know every single woman and person has a different voice. And also I'm really looking at training up and becoming an interpreter and working on public speaking skills. And I love singing. I'm not very good at it, but yeah, anyway, I'm just curious as to what you think about the pitch of my voice and how my voice is sitting.
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit on the low side, but I'd be interested to know, how does it feel? Do you have any awareness of how it feels when you speak?
I don't. Do you mean, does it feel like heavy, or?
Yeah. Does it feel easy to speak, or do you feel like you have to work quite hard to get your voice out?
Oh,
I was asked answer questions with questions.
No, it's good. I know that I often speak quite fast, but I think that's more, as you said, to do with nerves and maybe sometimes at work. And, you know, if I get a new query in, you know, I work on reception at the moment. So maybe if someone has a complicated question that I don't even have the answer to, yeah, I might speak more quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know if it feels like an effort to get work. Okay.
So were you here at the beginning of the call? Yeah. So can I just try something on you for a second?
Sure.
Okay. It's just so much easier than me talking about ideas. So can you try that hum, that for me for a minute? And do you feel a buzzing around your mouth and you're sort of forward when you do that?
Definitely around my mouth. I wouldn't say my nose. I think it kind of stops. Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah.
So when you do that, just purely just do that once more and just tell me how does it feel when you do that? Does it feel lighter, heavier, no different?
Maybe a little bit heavier. It feels weird. Oh no.
Okay. Because it's interesting. I mean, to me, it sounds lighter. It sounds like it should be easier for you, but I didn't want to tell you that's what you should be feeling.
Oh, my doing that?
Yes.
It sounds lighter than it did when I did it previously.
So
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we just, because we do this all the time without thinking, we'll be eating something, we'll go, this is nice, and we don't think about it. So that very sort of natural sound that we make, that's where the voice really wants to sit in terms of its sort of midpoint. So that would be where your voice really wants to be. And it is a little bit higher than where you're speaking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so okay. So just do another without really thinking. Imagine you're eating something really nice and don't think too much about it. Does that feel like, because it sounds to me like the weight's just been taken off the back of your throat.
And I think I am a little bit, probably like all of us, a little bit like run down, or I don't always sleep that well. So I think, and you know, it's very busy, we're all very busy with Christmas and things. Yeah, so I think it has felt a bit different today. I agree with Anna, sorry, the humming is really, it's really interesting, the humming thing.
So just try this for me for a minute. So can you do that? And then can you just say, and this is weird, but mum, mum, mum.
I'd like, as in the word mum, like my mum, is that the word?
Yeah, but just almost like a continuous sound. So mum, mum, mum.
Okay. Mum, mum, mum.
Mum, mum, mum. So can you hear that the pitch sits slightly higher there than where you are naturally speaking?
I think I can hear that. Yeah.
Okay, you should be able to hear it hopefully in the recording afterwards.
Oh, that'll be fun to listen to.
But it's more just it's normally very, very slight shift. It's not that you're talking down here and then you're going to talk up here. It's not that. It's usually just a slight shift. And what it does is it just allows the voice to kind of kick in. The gears are all, you know, able to kick in. The voice can kind of function. The breath can function better. Everything can kind of function better. So it might just be worth playing around with finding, again, I think I said this to another lady, like finding more of that sort of forward placement in your voice. The key with this is not to put too much effort into it, because what sometimes people will do is it'll be like a, you know, and they'll be then grasping through the neck. It should be a very, almost like you're not making any effort, no thought. And that's where your voice really wants to sit. And then it's just trying to encourage it a little bit more to eat. I mean, even if you can speak from there some of the time, just bring the voice slightly up a little bit. I think when you start speaking from there, you'll notice how much easier it is.
Oh, amazing. This whole webinar is so interesting. Like, thank you so much for coming to speak to us. It's
no problem.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I feel like I can't do this justice, because I would normally spend like an hour with someone on this, but I'm giving this to you in like 2 minutes. But yeah.
Listen, guys, here is what I'm suggesting. How funny. I mean, when we talked to Anouska first, like 30-minute Q&A, and then we'll do it. It's been going on for over an hour now, for a good reason, obviously, and I didn't want to shut it down. But what I think we should be doing now, because we are going to be finishing on time, so we are going to be finishing at 8 o'clock sharp, no matter what. But what I'm suggesting now at this point, yes, Tommy, I'm seeing you. What we should be doing is let's introduce ourselves in 30 seconds. Okay, so let's do the networking bit to make sure that we know who is who, basically. And then it's going to go fairly fast because it's a small and intimate event. And then what we do afterwards, we come back and we've got a couple of other questions. I've also prepared 2 further things here, and Tommy wants to ask something else. And then this is how we can nicely close it and come round in full circle. Okay, so let's do quickly the networking, the 30-second introductions. I've got my my 30 seconds prepared here, as long as my mobile phone suddenly didn't want to do anything here. Okay, back. So timer, and I'm going to 30 seconds. Yes, it's automatically there already. And I'm telling you just quickly the sequence. I don't know how you guys are seeing each other, but first on the top left corner, I've got Frida. So you are starting, Federica. Okay. Then I'm going to do it. Anouska, feel free to also mention as part of your introduction, you know, the shows that are coming up. Then Carol said, yes, mic not working. I'm just remembering now. Don't worry, Carol. But in that case, please use the chat box to introduce yourself with those links. Niraj, Anna, and then the rest of the people I will tell you in due course. Okay, so Frida, over to you.
Hi everyone. Well, you've already heard me speak now. I'm an applied linguist. I'm a doctoral researcher. I'm currently working on my PhD on basically how cognitively difficult certain aspects of foreign language use are. And I also do some freelance work for the language learning app Babbel on the German content. 7 seconds left. I'll return them to the host.
Nice one, perfect. Thank you very much. Lovely to have you again. Oh, here we go. Okay, I forgot to, what do I need to push? Here we go. Good. Over to me now. Gabriella Ferenci, German and Hungarian language teacher. I run a boutique language training company. It's called ProLingua Global. I'm based in London, and I work with finance executives, finance people. And most recently, I started to, I have a podcast channel. I'm very much into marketing, all sorts of things around marketing. And most recently, I started to teach also. This is a new thing. I started to teach for Kingston University. I teach marketing, which is something I really enjoy. It's a rather new thing for me, but very exciting. Anouska, over to you now.
Well, I don't have to say too much because you've done it all for me. So Anouska Taylor, I am a voice teacher, a singer. So I'm just going to talk very quickly. I've got lots of videos on YouTube if you want to understand a little bit more about what I've been talking about this evening. Also, please do find me on Spotify. And if you're in London and free on the 4th of February, then I would love you to come along to my show. Gabriella's going to be there and you can, it's a beautiful venue, strings, piano, electric guitar. So it will be an amazing night. Wow.
St. Pancras Church, right?
St. Pancras Old Church, yes. So between St. Pancras and Euston. So very central.
Yeah, if any of you is going, let me know. We can catch up before or afterwards for a drink. It's February, so we've got a couple of months until then. Yeah. Carol will introduce herself in the chat box. Neeraj, over to you.
Hello, my name's Nee. I've got two snobby older brothers called Head and Shoulders. Yeah, they think they're above the rest. Then again, they do have the shiniest of hair. Then again, I also have a little sister called Toes. She just loves to wiggle about, stink the place out. Thank you.
That was the 30 seconds. Says it all. Thank you, Neil. Lovely to have you again. Anna, over to you now.
Thank you. I'm Anna. I'm a computational linguist and natural language processing developer. I'm Russian, so I completed my master's in Russia, then did a PhD in France. Was in Switzerland for a while, and now I'm in the UK in Lancaster, working in a text analytics company. And yeah, if anyone knows a singing teacher or a choir around here, that would be really great, because I used to do singing lessons before and I never found a good teacher again with whom I would feel comfortable, but that wasn't in this area. Thank you.
Nice one. Thank you, Anna. Lovely to have you here. Catherine, over to you now.
And so I'm Catherine. I work and live in London. I work for a British medical membership organisation in facilities and reception and event management. I'm fluent in French, Spanish and English and love those languages so much. And I'm hoping to train up to become an interpreter and translator in the next year or two. Yeah, just love these events and finding out what different work all of you do. It's so interesting.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Catherine. Tommy, over to you then.
Hi, I'm Tommy.
Sorry, Tommy. I'm just remembering that I didn't tell you who is coming after him. So we've got Tommy, then we've got Yelena and Emma. I don't know how you guys see each other in the sequence. Okay, so Tommy.
Hi, I'm Tommy. I'm from Southeast London, originally from Bermuda. I'm a learning support worker, SEN teacher, and I've taught Spanish and French as cover supervisors and instructor. And I have qualifications in interpreting, so I'm just trying to get that off the ground. Okay.
Nice one. Thank you. Thanks for joining, Tommy. Thanks for being here again. Okay, we are going now to Yelena and then Emma. Hopefully you are here. Yelena.
Yes, I'm Yelena McCafferty, and I'm a former university lecturer who started an award-winning translation business that got me onto the stage of the Royal Albert Hall and into cinema screens. Yes, the name of my award-winning business is Talk Russian. So I hope that if any of your contacts ever need help with Russian, you will remember this catching name, Talk Russian.
Easy, and says what's on the tin. Perfect. Thank you, Yelena. Now, Emma, I wonder if you are around. We hope so. Yes.
Hi, hello. I'm Emma, and I'm Anastasia, and I'm originally British and French, and I've learned lots of other languages. And I also am a voice and accent and singing coach, and I'm looking to learn in all of those areas. At the moment, I teach at Regent's University and Identity School of Acting, so I work with actors, but also business professionals like lawyers and bankers and people in the European Union, different things. That's it. Thank you.
Nice one. Thank you, Emma. Lovely to have you here as well. Voice was a bit breaking down, but I think we could just about follow it, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's because I'm on my helmet. Sorry, or like my headphones.
Nice
sorry.
one. Yes. No, it was still okay. We were still okay, I believe. So thank you so much. Now listen, here is the plan for the remaining 7 minutes. Tommy has got a question. And then anyone else who has got something to say, something to ask, then this is the moment, the final moment. And I've also got something here. Tommy.
Oh, hi, Anouska. I sometimes, yeah, I'm a sort of an introverted, extroverted person. I guess it's from my parents. And sometimes I wonder whether my voice is sounding like a droning sort of, that sort of level. And also, I think maybe it's because of my cultural background. Like, I noticed that some people from my country, which is Bermuda, have that same sort of tone of voice. I just want to know, how can I don't want to change it. I just want to improve it, or, just make it sound a bit upbeat, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you listened to a recording of your voice?
I have, and
Yeah.
I don't like it sometimes, and sometimes, depending on how I pitch or change it, it sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
So I guess, I mean, just very simply, given we haven't got very long, I think one way to kind of get more interest into the voice is to almost, and it's going to sound a bit weird, but almost thinking about, and you're obviously going to have to practice this in the privacy of your own home, but almost imagine that you're singing a song as you speak, so that you try and bring in a little bit more melody into your speaking voice, even if initially you have to go to a bit more of an extreme.
Right.
Because what we tend to do is when we're speaking, unless we're acting, we tend to kind of keep the voice in a fairly sort of narrow pitch range, and we don't really move the voice too much. So I challenge you maybe to go away and perhaps get a book or something and just really explore the edges of your voice, and imagine that you're singing a song, but you're kind of speaking. So you're really allowing the voice to go up and to go down and to go loud and to go quiet, and really just explore the edges, because I think maybe it's just about you discovering what's actually possible with your voice and finding where you like it. Because at the end of the day, it's your voice, it's your expression, not what anyone else thinks. But
yeah, I was a lead singer in my church, and I was a high soprano, and then my voice changed.
Right.
And I haven't sang since then, but I guess it's a good, like you said, it's about exploring or practicing.
I think it is. And what I mean, often when I get clients to do this, they're a bit resistant at first because they think I'm saying that that's how they need to speak moving forward, but it's not. It's more about just exploring the possibilities, and almost thinking about the voice as like an artist's color palette, and exploring all the different colors and the different shades.
Right.
And then you can actually decide, how do I actually want my voice to come across, and how do I want to use it? But if we're only used to using black and white, then we don't know what else is out there in terms of what's called timbre. But
so I should use recordings and stuff and just more often. Okay.
Yeah, and record yourself, like get some text and then record yourself playing around with pitch going up and down, playing around with dynamics going loud and soft, and just explore, but almost see your voice and the fact that you have done singing in the past, almost like it's a melody of a song versus it's just a flat line.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
That's useful tips.
One nice one. Now you are, Anouska, you are a Jungian coach.
Yes.
So
yes.
I wonder what the Jungian story entails here. What's that?
I've got 3 minutes to answer that.
No, you've got only 2 minutes, because then I've got another final question.
Oh goodness. Okay. So yes, so the work of Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, I studied his work and brought it into my coaching with my clients, because really our mind drives our voice. It drives everything about our voice. And from a Jungian perspective, very quickly, he talks about the persona and the shadow and the ego. And so our voice forms part of our persona, how we want to be perceived in the world. So when I'm working with clients that really want to change their voice, but their voice is one way, and they want to do something different, it's normally because it doesn't fit with the persona that they're living in, and there's something that they are perhaps uncomfortable expressing through their voice. So we have to kind of look at the sort of what's driving the voice. So I'm trying to answer that as simply as possible, but essentially it's looking at the voice as a persona and what's driving that persona, why we want to be perceived this way, and what our fear is of being perceived in another way.
Perfect. And we have got 2 more minutes. So what date is the show? February the 4th.
4th. It's actually exactly 8 weeks today.
8 weeks today. February the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
The day comes and it's morning time.
Yes.
How are you going to, what is the day going to entail for you until the show actually starts? How are you going to prepare for that voice-wise?
Oh, well, on show day, I won't do anything voice-wise, and I will just warm up my voice. So I won't sing until that night, because it's quite a big, vocally quite demanding, my songs. So yeah, it would just be a warm-up, which would probably be, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
And then, to be honest, I'm going to be rushing around London doing stuff. So no. So no, I don't have a big kind of warm-up, vocal warm-up routine, because I try and preserve my voice for the shows.
Brilliant.
Mm.
Very, thank you very much.
No problem at all.
This was really, really interesting, informative, useful, inspiring, all of those things, I guess, in one. And we are super efficient with the time as well.
Yeah.
Yelena, make sure you reach out to Anouska. The interpreters have got a network, and then perhaps, a talk for them would be of interest here. So make sure I shared Anouska's contact details and or her links in the chat box. So do stay in touch with each other and make sure that you connect on social or whatever you would like to do. And yes, it was lovely to see you again, to meet you. And yeah, I mean, it's December. Can you believe it? So it's time to wish you all, a wonderful Christmas, and then we will see you again whenever the time is right in the new year. Anouska, the final word is yours.
Thank you all. I mean, you've all been brilliant, and I just encourage you, really explore your voice. You don't know what you've got till you start playing around with it. Don't be afraid to use it, and don't be afraid to explore it, because it's an incredible instrument we all have inbuilt.
Thank you again. Have a wonderful weekend, evening, December festive season, and then we will see each other whenever the time is right in the new year. Take care, guys.
Thank you very much.
Now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.